So I recently finished the last story on the Nintendo Wii for the first time, and since this is a game I've been wanting to play for a while, now that I've finally finished it, I figured I'd come in here and talk about it. So let's get right to it. The last story is an action RPG that ironically was one of the last notable games to release on the Wii back in 2011, but because it came out towards the end of the Wii's life cycle, I kind of feel like it's been forgotten over time. Now, the last story follows Zale, a mercenary who rolls with a crew of misfits, man. We got the homies Dagran, Lowell, Yurik, Maranya, and everybody's favorite drunk, Seren. And after the opening events of the game, the crew finds themselves on Lazarus Island, where Zale hopes to fulfill his dreams of becoming a knight. And they also want to be knights because they want to be employed, because mercenary life is hard and they're not rich. Y'all see how much eggs are nowadays? People trying to get paid. And people of Lazarus are all also at war with these creatures called the Gurok. That is pretty important too. Now, the story is a huge crux of the game, so I'm not going to get too deep into specifics. But I can say that it was a pretty solid story, man. It's not going to blow you away, but it has a cast of characters. You know, everybody has distinguishable personality traits, and they kind of keep things interesting and kind of keep the ball rolling along. And it hits on all the notes that you would want a game like this to have, man. We got conflict, we got mystery, we got politics, we got betrayal, we got love. Shout outs to Lady Callista. We got hate. Shout outs to Gerald. Always got to be a hater in the group. But yeah, all of that good stuff is here, man. Now, one thing I really appreciated about the last story is that the story and the game itself are pretty respectful of your time. There's not a lot of filler or fluff going around. I think I finished this in under 30 hours, maybe 30 hours at most. But yeah, this game gets straight to the point, and once you get to the main story, it keeps things pushing along. And you know, you do the main story missions, things are steadily progressing, and if you do decide to go off the beaten path and maybe go on a side quest, you'll be rewarded for it, whether that be through additional story bits that flesh out characters a bit more, or new weapons, or getting new weapons, or getting new gear. And getting the new gear actually does matter, because you know, you customize your characters, get upgrades, and you know, you can also customize their look, and you know, pick what weapons they use. So you know, get them looking right, get them fighting right, you know, get them the way you want to. And even with the upgrades and the customizations, I never felt like this was one of those really grindy action RPGs. Like, the only time in this game I really felt underleveled was literally at the last boss fight. But you can always grind in the arena if you need to, which is an area you can visit on Lazarus. And normally before every major boss fight, they have like these little circle things that you can step into, and it'll spawn some enemies, and you can use them to grind and level up if you really need to. One negative I will say, speaking of side quests, is that there are no quest logs in this game. So if you were on a side quest, you need to just remember who you talk to and make sure you keep talking to them so that you can continue the side quest, because otherwise the game isn't really going to tell you anything. But these side quests, and as well as the main missions, are going to take you away from Lazarus Island and the castle, which are two of the main places you'll be. But you'll also be in caves, you're going to be in dungeons, you're going to be in abandoned ships, you're going to be all over the place. And you and the crew and the gang, y'all going to be out here throwing hands. And this is where I can talk about my favorite part of the game, which is the combat. The combat of the last story definitely has its own little unique kind of flair and flavor to it. You can tell they tried to do something a little different, and for the most part I think it worked. Majority of the time you're going to be controlling Zale, but the gang is still with you while you're out in the field. Now, unless you change the settings, Zale's moves are pretty much done like automatically for you, so you don't have to do too many moves in terms of like inputs, but you can still block, dodge, you have a crossbow, you can do a matrix flip off a wall. Zale has a signature move called the Gale Strike. You and your teammates can chain together combos together, which is really dope. And you can do one of the most important moves of the entire game, and that is called Gathering. So activating Gathering is going to draw the enemy's attention towards you, so that you kind of become the star of the show that everybody really wants to kill. But in exchange of getting that attention, that gives your teammates time to cast magic spells. So you can use Gathering to, you know, draw enemies away so your teammates can do what they need to, and you can also use Gathering to heal your teammates if they fall in battle. Now, what's really dope is that, you know, as you command your teammates, you're, you know, picking like certain moves and abilities that they can do, and you know, doing this can kind of give you an upper hand in battle, and it adds some strategy to the fights, and I really enjoy that aspect of it. So you had to kind of figure out, you know, the best times to use certain abilities, and what teammate should you be using, what ability should they use, when should they use it. And everybody on the crew has their own little unique style and specialty. For example, Miranya is the healer of the group, and Yurik is a little pyromaniac back there. And you're gonna notice that when they do their spells, it puts like this magic circle on the ground. Now the circle itself is always, it's gonna have like some kind of effect, but if you hit the circle with Azael's Gale Strike, it diffuses the circle, and that basically kind of adds like some bonus effect onto the magic. So for example, if you step into Miranya's healing circle, it'll just heal you. But if you hit it with a Gale Strike, it'll heal the entire party. And I really love this element of control with, commanding the party members and the attacks that they do. It made me feel like a field general, like a point guard, because, you're kind of just directing people and letting them know and telling them where, what to do, what attack to do. And, you're kind of figuring out what's the best, kind of strategy and ways to approach fights. And it was also just really fun to see what different kinds of, diffuse abilities happen when you diffuse the magic circle with the Gale Strike, to see like what kind of different things would happen. And boss encounters for the most part in this game were pretty fun. Each boss kind of had their own little unique strategy to them. It's not just walking in and just wailing and swinging like a madman. You really did have to, kind of figure out, what specific kind of attack you needed to do to the boss that was most effective, which team member would probably be the most help. And like this mix up of the encounters and the different kind of strategies, for me at least, kept the combat, really fresh, because I had to actually think about what I was doing. Now with the gang on the screen, at times it's going to be, 6-7 of y'all out in the field going crazy. Things do get hectic, and you will experience frame drops. It's nothing game breaking, but it's definitely noticeable, and it's something you're going to have to deal with. It is definitely something you're going to have to deal with. The frame drops, as well as some of the quality of life choices, or maybe lack thereof, show the game's age. There are going to be moments in this game where you're going to realize how old it is, and it kind of shows that it's rough around the edges. But I think even with those negatives, I was never bored of playing this. The combat always kept me engaged. Like I said, the pacing of the story, things just kept moving along, and I was always ready to see what was the next adventure the gang was going to get into. But there was always something happening. There was always something going on, and not any like one aspect of the last story really wowed me, but I feel like the sum of its parts came together good enough for me to be entertained. And honestly, like I enjoyed this way more than I thought I would. The story was solid, the soundtrack was solid. You found characters to like, you found characters to hate. I appreciated how, like I said, how different the combat was, and just the pacing of the game. I really enjoyed that this game did not really waste my time. Like we got straight to the point. Like we got to the stuff. We didn't have to to do a whole bunch of fluff and pointless, running around. Like we got straight to what we needed to get to. And I really enjoyed that. And this is one of those games that I feel like this could go from like good to great if it were remade and they ironed out some of the edges, because it's definitely rough around the edges. There are definitely improvements here to be made, and I think with a remake, man, this could really be something. But even with it as is, I still had a ton of fun with this, and after finishing it, I can definitely say this is one of my favorite games on the Wii, man. I think they did enough here. There was enough here to like, that I was able to kind of forgive the shortcomings that it had, because the positives for me outweighed the negatives. But yeah, that was my experience with the last story. I had a pretty good time with it, man. I definitely enjoyed myself. Shout out to Zale and the crew. I had fun with y'all, man. It was a cool little story, man. I had myself a good time. But if you played the last story, let me know your thoughts on it in the comments below. My name is Serial Sensei. Y'all stay safe. Y'all stay hydrated. And I'll catch y'all on the next video.